All right, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with my own personal Fatima. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how we doing?
Good. We're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe.
You are actually a listener, and you haven't already. Can you review, please? That actually apparently helps.
All right, well, The Alchemist is kind of a move for us. It's a different genre, I guess, than we've previously explored, so this should be interesting in one way or another. But Keith, we're doing this as part of kind of return to school section of the podcast where we're going through, we did The Giver last time. We're going to do this. We got some other stuff coming. But did you actually read this in school?
Negative. I don't remember hearing of it.
It was definitely on my mom's bookshelf because my mom was really into this kind of stuff. So I never read it because I just was like, nah, I'm too cool for that, or something along those lines. The Alchemist is pretty much the story of Santiago, a humble shepherd who refuses to settle for a 6 and goes in search of a 10.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But really, the story of The Alchemist is about this Santiago, who is a humble shepherd, but he goes in search of his treasure and his personal legend, which, if you drank every time the personal legend was said in this book, you'd be a drunkard, and your heart would listen to you. All right, let's get into stock up, stock down. What do you got? What do you got for stock up, Keith?
Stock up oases. I'm going to start off right up front. I wasn't going to do that first, but yeah, I honestly didn't know they were real. I thought they were. The only time they'd mention them are in cartoons in the desert when people are seeing mirages. So I was like, oh, so they're just like made up things. But apparently, currently support 10 million people in the Middle East and North Africa. I looked up some of the stuff about like how they form because it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the people that write on this just make it up also. They just use all this jargon. They're like underground aquifers and pressures.
Aquifers. That makes sense.
And surface to us. I'm like, yeah, but you're in the middle of the desert. Why is there water there? They're like aquifers. I'm like, what? But either way.
I think it's aquifer, but like Aquafina.
I mean, Jeremy Irons didn't read that to me, so I don't really know what it is.
Oh, yeah, that's Jeremy Irons doing the audiobook.
He crushed it. He absolutely crushed it.
No, it kind of makes sense in that there's underground water, right, throughout the world. And even in a desert, there's places where the water table is higher or lower than others. So there's places where the water table's higher and it creates an oasis.
See, you're just throwing jargon out there that doesn't mean anything. I mean, if you dig deep enough, you're going to reach molten hot magma, as far as I know. Based on everything I've seen from Austin Powers, that's how things work. So I don't know where this water you're talking about comes from.
Also, is it oases or oasi?
I think it turns into OASES when it's plural.
Got you. This is exactly what Paulo wanted us to discuss when he wrote The Alchemist. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So stock up oases because you didn't know they existed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty sick that they just are like in the middle of the desert. They're like, all right, and here's this big community of random like people based around the water. And if you look at pictures of them, they're pretty awesome. It's just this huge desert, and then all of a sudden it's like you're on, a Palm Beach, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, this is so cool.
You just Aladdin and Agrabah just hanging out all of a sudden. Yeah, it is interesting you say that because my knowledge, similarly, is really just from like Looney Tunes and movies like that. It's the same with quicksand. Quicksand isn't in the news anymore. If someone was like, oh, quicksand actually doesn't exist, I'd probably believe them because I say, yeah, well, I only really know about it from cartoons.
It's like when TNT blows up, it doesn't just make your face black. It actually kills you,
Indeed. It does. Yeah. That's fact. My first stock up is hearts. Human hearts.
Oh, okay.
See, I personally thought they were just for pumping blood, but in fact, hearts can speak to you. They can tell you of your strengths, your desires. I mean, heck, they can even warn you of imminent danger. According to the text, hearts only talk to those who are trying to realize their personal legend. Drink. But if you're moseying through life, don't worry. They also protect children and the elderly. If you still don't fit into those categories, don't fret, no. They also protect drunkards, so stay thirsty, my friends. I found that interesting. He was like, oh, he asked the Alchemist, he's like, oh, so do hearts talk to everyone? I was like, no, only those in search of their personal legend. He's like, oh, And he's like, well, also children, elderly, and drunkards.
There was a whole second half of the book where they're just like traveling in the desert and he's just complaining.
Okay, I have a question for you before we get into anything deeper. Did you read this and were you going through it fairly literally, or were you embracing the metaphors, the symbolism, the ether, all that stuff?
I'm not smart enough to understand the deeper message or the allegory or whatever that's going on. I liked it when it was like the rags to riches story. Give me that. I'll take that all day.
You wanted Ragged Dick?
Pardon? What?
Ragged Dick. It's a different school book about a little boy named Dick.
I think you're talking about something different that I don't know, I'm not aware of.
No, from my memory, because we did read it in school, he like is a poor kid in New York or something like that, and then saves someone on a ferry, and because of that, like befriends a rich guy and goes on with his life. So he had some positive omens there. But all right, I guess
I took it very literal, and yeah, the parts where it was just mystical and magical, I was like, all right, like, you know, it wasn't for me.
I kind of went both, you know. I read it obviously as the story itself, but it's almost like a self-help book tied into a regular story. You know, it wasn't just necessarily a linear book of this kid going on a journey to find a treasure. It was life and how to approach it and things along that nature. But whatever. What else you got for stock up?
Stock up, living in the moment. I think this quote is probably pretty popular. I don't live in either my past or my future. I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living now. And I was like, fuck yeah.
So you were reading this not as a story, but a self-help to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, that idea has become way more embraced, I feel like, since this book has been written. I mean, the whole idea of mindfulness is really about living in the moment and enjoying the moment for all of its greatnesses and hardships, because that's what makes you alive. You know,
yeah.
That moment is when you're alive.
I'm a big anti, let's pull out our phone and videotape, or let's get a picture. I don't mind a picture, just like, oh, the boys need a picture type of thing. But I hate a let's sacrifice the fun we're having right now in order to do something for the future. You know, it's like,
I fucking hate it. It's
okay.
It's bottom of the barrel for me. I mean, I think this idea, obviously, the mindfulness or whatever you want to call it, you know, living in the moment, is difficult for everyone. I really think that if we could all achieve that, then everyone would be, I'm not going to say happy, but like content and alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I struggle with, and I actually have, because Audible, you know, you're get these friggin' things and they add up, and then you lose them if you don't use them in time. So I do a lot of great courses on there, because also it's like a good bang for your buck, because they're like 40 hours. And one of the ones I got was mindfulness, and I was doing a good job of in the morning going for a walk and just listen. They're 30-minute lectures, you know, and I was listening to it, and it was really enjoyable. And I was trying to practice it, but then you kind of get down on yourself, but you're not supposed to get down on yourself. So it's an emotional cycle. But in terms of your question, if you're at a concert and someone pulls out their phone to film their favorite song or something along those lines, It's like this band might not play that song again for the next, 8 trips. Like if they're coming back to this city, they might never play it again. Just sit there and enjoy it. Or at a sporting event when it's 4th down in the Super Bowl, like what are you pulling your phone out? Like bite your fingernails and enjoy that, because how often and I ask people this all the time when they're doing that, like friends, obviously not random people, but I'm like, how often you do this all the time, right? Like this is your thing. It's like, yeah, I have all these great memories. It's like, do you go back and look at that? Like, are you going back and saying, oh, that video of those fireworks was awesome? It's like, no, just sit there and enjoy the fireworks. Whatever you experience through your phone isn't going to be as good as what you're experiencing through your iPhones. And I mean the eyeball phones.
100%. I think it's good to like surmise or capture events. So it's like, end of a golf round, you take a picture. It's like, oh, I remember that round was great. You just remember, you bring back flashbacks to the round. But like taking a video of every swing is like, all right, what are we even doing here? Or the same thing at the concert. Before the band goes on, take a picture of the set, get ready. But like videotaping every song is like, all right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking a picture to like remind you of that moment, because, memories formed in all sorts of ways, through things you see, through things you hear, through things you feel. So sometimes seeing a picture or something, will bring that memory back stronger than, you had it in your mind's eye. I get that, but taking like a 2-minute video of some fucking fireworks on 4th of July, you just relax.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I never videotape any sort of sexual acts also, too, because first of all, it's going to be shorter than 2 minutes, and then secondly... Yeah. Anyways. Yeah.
Objects in camera appear smaller than they do in real life.
Exactly. Exactly. I put that in the footnotes of any video,
Yeah, it'd be like a TikTok video for you. You only get 15 seconds.
That's what I call it too. TikTok, a little TikTok.
I actually don't know if that's how TikTok works. Maybe it's longer.
I don't know either.
My next stock up is Alchemy. Obviously, this book is titled The Alchemist.
Okay.
And I feel like we don't get enough alchemy talk in our lives. This alchemy stock has to be way down. I'm pretty sure it's been down.
I actually bought it.
You bought what?
I bought the alchemy stock. Remember
what?
in Mistborn. Remember she has the Alchemist?
Oh, right.
Kid, you got to be listening to the stock market like I am. I have my finger on the pulse, ready to buy these things.
Oh, snap. So you had, because the metallurgist in Mistborn, or maybe it was the second one.
It was the second one where she just like writes to some guy and is like, "Hey, let's try this metal," and it works. It's like, all right, that guy's pretty valuable to you.
Got you. Yes, I remember. I also remember that on your blog on our site, BuddyBookClub.com. I read that. That was interesting. But alchemy in general, in terms of our knowledge from this life, I thought it was turning the lead into gold thing. And I'm pretty sure like super smart people, I'm thinking...
Einstein? Newton,
that guy. There you go. I'm pretty sure he died of lead poisoning or something because he got into alchemy like late in life. And obviously I could be talking a bunch of bullshit, but someone really smart. All these old guys were like really into the idea of alchemy. My remembrance of alchemy is only from Harry Potter. Nicholas Flamel, my boy, who had the Philosopher's Stone. He was really into alchemy. But it's not about turning lead into gold. It's about penetrating to the soul of the world and discovering your treasure. So alchemy is really about transformation. It's not just lead into gold, get rich.
Die trying, 50 Cent.
It's about transforming, and it can be not only objects, but yourself, and this whole idea that all objects are looking to transform. I mean, the guy's talking about the seashells always looking to become the sea again, all that stuff. It's all a metaphor, right? So we have to bring some alchemy into our own lives and discover our own treasures. I found that to be insightful.
You're going way deeper than I'm ready for, kid. I don't know what's going on.
How do we read this book and just read it as the story of this kid?
That's what I do with literally every book. I don't know. What do you mean? We're 38 episodes in, and you're like, you're taking this as literal? I'm so shocked. That's weird.
I don't know. You went a little deep on the body. I mean, I get with like Mistborn, it's not like, I don't even know what the metaphors would be in that, or the allegories for humanity. But with this, that's like the point of this whole thing.
Yeah, this is a top 10 book to read before you die type thing, but I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't get that as much, but
if you were on your deathbed or near your deathbed, I think this book would either make you at peace or like frighten the hell out of you. It's really one or the other, because a lot of times when death is dealt with in this book, the idea being, don't be afraid to die if you're in pursuit of your goals. Like, what a better time to die than, you died trying to achieve something. If someone had kind of reached their own, whatever they thought their own personal legend, like if they've felt like they had gotten close to it, or at least embarked on that journey and were on their deathbed, you say, hey, you know what? I know the lupus got me, but but here we are. On the other hand, if you were just like me and on your deathbed, you'd be like, God damn, I've done absolutely nothing besides put a couple of shekels in the bank. Like, what? So
this guy got conned multiple times and robbed 3 or 4 times. It's like, was it really that good of a legend? I don't know.
He found all that treasure and married Fatima. He found her kiss on the wind. That's special. The last one I had was, and you're going to hate me for this one too, but it was metaphors, because there were so many friggin' metaphors in this book that I felt like an idiot. Didn't we read another book that was all metaphors?
Probably any book that I didn't like.
Yeah, fair enough.
Probably, yeah.
But this one, they're telling a story and I'm just sitting there the whole time. It's kind of like looking for the boogeyman over your shoulder when you're watching a horror movie. The whole time I'm like trying to read, like, is there subtext here, or is this just about a crystal shop? Like, is this just about a guy buffing glasses at a crystal shop? It's like, where there's got to be some sort of symbolism when you're reading one of those kids books and you're supposed to find like the hidden things over the shoulders. Like,
I think I know the answer to this, D-Man, and it's been staring you right in the face the whole time. He's working at a crystal shop. Yeah, he's working. What's really happening is he's starting to see crows talk to him, and these kings are coming to him, and all these magical things are happening. Yeah, crystal kid, meth. Crystal meth is what's happening. Dude's taking a journey on crystal meth. He's seen all this shit. That's what's really happening. It's been staring you in the face the whole time, kid. I don't know how you didn't connect the dots. There's no metaphor. It's just him high on fucking meth the whole time.
That's an interesting idea. He never left Spain.
Never.
It was just the king who he met that he shared his drink with. The king slipped him a Mickey.
The sheep is a metaphor for drugs. His dad's like, what do you want to do with your life? He's like, I want to do sheep and or take on sheep and travel around the world. He's like, all right, here's some money. And then he just went and done tons of drugs the whole time. And then that's it.
Really stock up for good parent, because, if you told your mom or dad, you said, hey, I'm going to drop out of school. I want to become a shepherd. They'd tell you to go fuck off. Where his dad said, you know what? I've been hiding this gold coin. I was going to give it to you for your inheritance. Go buy a couple of sheep and travel the world. That's amazing. Good for him. It's like the version of someone saying they wanted to go surf in Hawaii and the parents being like, all right, here's enough money for a plane ticket and a van you can sleep in. Go surf. Who does that?
Imagine, too, if you're a parent now, I have to imagine, and you save up, put away a ton of money for your kid to go to college, and he decides or she decides, I want to be a plumber. That's my life's work. They don't need to go to college. They don't need to go to this advanced degree to get this huge amount of money. They're going to make good money, and then you can just give them that money. That'd be the best thing ever. You don't go into any debt. You're doing what you love, and you have $200,000 in the bank potentially, right? That's what you basically
did.
I'm
a big fan of the trades in general. It's good. It's good, honest work, and you can make make a good amount of money. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm also anti-college in general. It's just absurd, and it's really one of the worst investments you can make. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, let's get into stock down. What do you got?
Self-help book stock down, since you've already mentioned.
Oh, how dare you! How dare you!
Well, this is actually really more a stock up for this book, if anything. But you mentioned it. The New York Times described this book as more of a self-help book than literature. Have you read self-help books before?
I've read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, The 4-Hour Work Week, maybe like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if that counts, which was like, that guy ended up blowing all of his money and is now bankrupt, so it's hilarious.
Oh, is he? Wow.
Yeah. And it was all like fabricated stories, obviously, which is totally fine. I don't mind if it's entertaining. I don't care who, if it's true or not. It doesn't bother me. But that's my length of self-help.
If you're going to do a self-help book, I'd much rather have it disguised as a story than here's like basically what self-help books are, if like from the ones I've read too, are here's my theory on things. Now I need to write 150 pages in order to sell a book on it. So I'm going to stuff this book. You could read the preamble or the preface or whatever and know exactly what I'm about to say, but I need to write 150 pages. Yeah. So you're going to get 150 pages. But this is a large story. I liked it because of that. And, I'd much rather have this. Like Rudy. Rudy, I think, was a self-help movie, right? And that movie, sure. I remember that scene by scene. I love that message in that.
It's like Number Crunchers or something like that. One of those games used to play in elementary school to learn math. I don't want a teacher on a chalkboard teach me math. I'd rather be playing a video game where there's math involved and I have to do the math to solve it. Or the idea of, a spoonful of honey helps the medicine go down. You got kids, disguise that medicine with honey or whatever the case is, and it's just goes down easier. It's just like anything else.
Being sick is 100% mental anyways. So they found studies, D-Man, that says whatever you think makes you feel better when you're having the common cold will make you feel better. So if you traditionally have chicken noodle soup, that'll make you feel better. If you have ginger ale, that'll make you feel better. Just whatever you think makes you feel better.
They've also had studies that show that chicken soup actually does have properties that make your cold better. But that's
mental properties, yeah, mental.
But I 100% agree with you on your point of stock down self-help books, because I've been in the same boat. And who does this really well, and I don't even know if they're categorized necessarily as self-help books, but like learning books, and they do have some self-help aspects, is Malcolm Gladwell. Like all of his books are super interesting, and there's definitely kernels to take away from those that you can apply to your own life. It's not, get out of bed and do 20 push-ups and make sure to make your bed because that keeps your brain together. It's like, oh, that bullshit. Yeah, making your bed also increases your chances of bed bugs. So just FYI.
Is that right?
Well, if you have bed bugs or you have a little bit of bed, if you have a little bit of...
If you have bed bugs, you'll continue to have bed bugs.
But let's just say you had a little bit of bed bugs and you had your bed unmade. It doesn't create a great environment for them. But if you make your bed, you still have some residual heat and moisture, so creating a great environment for them to proliferate, or any sort of bacteria. But
gotcha.
Yeah. So my first stock down is being a total piece of shit. So yeah, this the stock is definitely pretty low.
Nice, good one.
But if in the book they say when we strive to become better, then everything around us becomes better too. But if that's true, then the opposite must also be true, which is, when you strive to become a total piece of shit, then everything else becomes a total piece of shit. And it reminds me of a great Simpsons episode. And I don't even know the episode, just like all these Simpsons stuff, but they're just these quick things that hit you in the head. It was showing how Bart had to go to stay back or go to this special needs class or something because his grade was an F. And it showed how he affected the class around him. And it just showed, him in the middle of the class with an F. And then all around him was D's. And then as you got further out, it was B's and A's. And Marge and Homer at the parent conference meeting were like, oh my God, they were so appalled. And then Krabappel's like, I also made a 3D rendering of it. And it's just a black hole in the middle. It was great scene. But actually, that's pretty true in life. As much as we hate those, Johnny Do-Goods who are trying to show how much better they are than all of us, I think if you try to manifest that in your own life, it does kind of leech off onto those around you. And the same with shitty behavior and shitty attitudes and stuff like that. So and we're in football season right now, and you see that kind of happen within these football teams. Once you go on a losing streak, things kind of get let out in the media, and then the teams just crumble, where now you got guys like Brian Daboll, head coach of the Giants, who's not a very good team on paper, but he's bringing this energy and these ideas and these schemes together, and everyone is buoyed up. They all play better because of that. So it's just so funny when you think so much of things are based on natural talent and ability, and that's definitely important, but mentality and purpose is something that's contagious as well. So
actually, I was on a basketball league out here. I joined a random free agent team when I first got out here, and there was one kid on the team that was the best player, complete dickhead, just the worst person ever.
Is it
obviously,
Magic?
Just he's a guest of the program, sir. We don't speak ill of Magic, but he just was negative to everyone, just brought the whole team down. And I would try just did the opposite of anything he said. And at one point he called me a positive Patty, which I think was a racial fucking thing. I don't know. He was basically making fun of my Irish heritage. Yeah. But I was the nicest insult I've ever been called.
Yeah.
A positive Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a guy you want to hang out with. That's a guy you want a beer with, right?
100%.
I was like, why would I be insulted by that?
My pickleball group is all old people, and a lot of them aren't very good. But I just go out there to play. I'm just so happy to be able to play. It really doesn't matter to me. Obviously, I want a fun, competitive game. But sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not very good. You probably don't want to play with me. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm having a blast, And I believe it. So it's not putting on airs or something. I feel better after that exchange. And I get the feeling that they do as well, and I kind of enjoy having that aspect in my week. What else do you have for stock down?
Business ideas, stock down.
Okay.
I like to think of myself as an idea man.
You are an idea man.
I'm like Kramer and Seinfeld. Not the best ideas, but I throw ideas out there. That's all I'm about.
You're driving to Michigan to turn in cans?
Yeah, the 10 cents. Yeah, obviously. Santiago, the boy, he's pretty much like an entrepreneur in the beginning with the crystal shop. But I didn't really get his business idea and why it worked. He's like, this is what we need to do is we need to lug up these crystal cups up the top of the hill and then pour tea to people and give them tea, and then they'll want to drink tea because they're tired from climbing up the hill, and they'll want to buy the crystal after they've had the tea. which isn't really a good idea to me. You drop one time, you fucking lose all your money. The tea you're not making much money on, right? And then who, when they get up to the top of a hill, a big hill, is like, you know what I want on the way down is to have to carry this crystal down with me, this delicate crystal that could likely break.
Well, I'm
Why would I ever want to do that?
They wrapped it up, you know?
It's crystal, kid. My parents had crystal. We never brought it out ever. Not one time. I don't even know what the point of it was. It just stays in the cabinet. You're not allowed to touch it because it's going to break somehow, you know? That's what crystal is, right?
My mom has a couple of those glasses and stuff like that. And she's like, I just want you to know these are very expensive. Like, you're going to get them when I die. And I'm like, Mom, sell them. I don't care. I'm sorry.
Did you ever use them?
No, of course not. It's too nice.
What's the enjoyment of using something that it's like, if you break this, you just lost this money?
Yeah.
Give me a fucking plastic cup then. I don't care.
It's a weird part of, and this book kind of touches on it too, just the materialistic nature of human beings, where we want to say that we have some crystal or like break it out once a year.
Listen, if we did a book club in person, I'd fuck with some crystal cups, but let's be honest.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
At the same time, I didn't thought the business idea was poor. I don't know if you agree with me, but they made them a lot of money. It didn't make sense to me though.
Well, I think the idea was travelers who come up the hill are thirsty, and in that area of the world, they're drinking lots of tea. So we should offer them tea and in these crystal cups, and they'll go, oh, this is nice. I should get me some of them cups.
If you went hiking at the top of the hike, right, you got to the final of the peak, and they're like, hey, do you want this really expensive stuff to carry down? It might break on the way down. Would you want that?
Well, considering there's no booze in Africa or this Islamic place, if I got to the top of a hill and someone said, hey, here's an ice cold Miller Lite in a souvenir cup, I'd say, oh, okay, that's great. And they say, hey, you can keep the souvenir cup for $1 that says you made it to the top of the hill. I'd say, yeah, all right, I'll throw you the $1. You know, it's the same idea.
But the cup you have to carry carefully the whole way down.
Yeah, they wrap the cup. Why is it so hard to understand?
Crystal breaks, kid. It breaks. I looked it up too. I was like, am I crazy? Crystal's like really fragile, right? And literally the first thing it shows is like crystal will break and if it hits anything hard. And I said, yeah. Exactly.
All right, just don't drop your D on it.
What are they wrapping it in? So now they have to sell pillows?
No,
like, what are we talking about here, D-Mac?
Newspaper or whatever.
They didn't have newspaper back then. The printing press wasn't even around.
Of course.
I don't even know what war they're in, by the way. Do we know? Is it World War I?
No, this has to be before that, right?
I had no idea what war was going on.
Well, it's not a war. It's just a tribal warfare.
Oh, I thought it was like a world war going on.
In the desert?
There's a big North African campaign, World War II.
Oh, yeah,
maybe
for
World
sure.
War I, I don't know, but
Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, my boy.
Why'd you say it like that?
The best Nazi to ever exist. Well, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
We're clipping that.
He was more for he was more for country. He was all about Germany, and he wasn't about Nazism, but that's just kind of the way it went. He was just a good
general.
Still on
this guy?
Yeah, I don't know. Read up on it. The Desert Fox. He wasn't down with Hitler. He wasn't down with all that shit. My next and last stock down is books. So the reason why the reason why, and I know this is a book podcast, but I'm talking physical books, and the reason why it has taken us a while to get this one out is because it took me a while to read this book, and it's not a long or difficult book to read. I just have been so into audiobooks lately. It's fall here in New England. I got a lot of yard work to do. You know, I'm driving around. All that stuff when audiobooks are great. I mean, I love an audiobook because I can really focus on it when I'm doing boring yard work or like stuff like that. And it keeps my mind interested in something while I'm doing a monotonous task. And I just found that I don't really love reading a physical book anymore. There's a time and place for it, usually on an airplane, on the shitter, but you really only get a couple minutes when you're doing that.
Speak for yourself.
On the beach, like in the summer, I enjoy sitting there reading a book, although you get a better tan when you're listening to an audiobook. But I have a tough time. As a kid, I used to love going to bed early and having a cup of this aforementioned tea in a crystal glass and reading a book for an hour. But now as an adult in football season, like I just have no interest. And so that's why I apologize to the listeners out there. I apologize to you, Keith, but that's why it took me a while to get through this. Even though I enjoyed the book, like I wanted to keep reading it, I just didn't find a great time to be able to pick it up. If it was an audiobook, I would have been done with it in lickety-split, So that's my personal journey.
Jeremy Irons, all you had to say.
That's the thing, too, is like I'm reading this in my own dumb head, and I'm hearing my own stupid voice when I could be hearing Jeremy Irons, maybe one of the best
I won't lie, he made the book
ever.
5 times better.
I believe it. There's no real character. I guess you could pick Santiago or the Alchemist.
I picked his dad. You already mentioned it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, his dad was a straight homie, for sure.
Yeah.
I was hoping that at the end of it, we'd see them again.
He was also right. The ending was basically, oh, your treasure's back where you started, which is what his dad said. His dad's like, you can travel the whole world. You're going to have a good time, but really your treasure or your life is where your home is. So that's basically what happened, right?
Wait, you want to see homos naked?
What did I say?
You remember
those two aren't mutually exclusive, but they might both be true.
Do you remember that from Joe Dirt? Where he says home is where you make it, but it's the guy who has the really bad accent. And it's like, what? You want to see homos naked? Yeah, I don't know why, but that Joe Dirt scene has always stuck with me. Just what Paulo Coelho thought when we were talking about his book. Okay, what do we love? What do we love about The Alchemist?
I was a fan that is whimsical, It felt like a bedtime story as a kid. Jeremy Irons, just those lustrous pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just appreciate it. I thought that was a fun part of the book. It's short. It was easy to get through.
Yeah, I thought the setting was really interesting. I like that a lot. Just, there's nothing beats really this, like you said, this mystical African desert, North African desert. I guess maybe because I saw Aladdin at such a young age, and they talk about genies and stuff in this book. And obviously there's a lot of magical elements of this book. I guess you could call them magical. It's not, well, he turned himself into the wind, so that's pretty magical.
Right.
So, yeah, I just think that area of the world and magic go really well together. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I also thought at the end of the book when he gets beat up and robbed by those people. That was the end of the book. I was like, holy shit, this book's dark.
Yeah.
It went from being follow your dreams, follow your journey to don't get conned by people, stay at home and keep your sheep, be happy.
Yeah.
I thought that was the end of the book. I was like, holy shit, this is dark.
Because how did you think when you were reading it? How did you think it was going to end? Did you think there was an actual treasure? Did you think there was a physical treasure? Or did you think it was more of an emotional treasure?
I thought he was going to get there and he was going to be inspired. The Alchemist is my personal legend is being an alchemist, and you got to find yours. But we still don't know what it is, right? What is it?
His personal legend was to find that treasure.
But I thought this, the treasure was finding your personal legend, what it is.
Yeah.
Right? That's, so he went there and he's like, oh my God, these pyramids are amazing. I want to be I want to be an architect now. That's what I realized this whole time. I've been missing, It's that's his treasure they found.
Exactly.
But then at the end, they're he's got the shit beat out of him, and it's go back home, buddy. It's wait, what? That's it?
Yeah, I thought based on how, all the metaphors and stuff like that throughout the book, I thought it wasn't going to be a physical treasure. I thought similarly to you, he'd see this and then say, oh, I'm going to get into engineering or something based on this and go back to the oasis and make the most efficient well or something along those lines. But the idea being with the personal legend is he's in search for this treasure, but once you find it, it's not now your personal legend is done and you can die. You go on to the next personal legend. You keep moving forward. There's always another one until there isn't. So who knows what his next personal legend was, but he got that bag, as the kids say, because he went home and found his treasure. Also, really, really great situation. You go to find this treasure, and the guy's like, oh, it's actually just, back home. And then once you're home, it's easy because you're not worried about people coming and killing you to get this dang treasure. I also wonder, who do you fence for that? When you have a mask made of gold, what do you do with that as a farm boy?
What do you mean fence? Or sell it to?
Yeah, who do you go to?
I think you're who do you battle with fencing?
No.
I don't know.
No.
I'm I don't know.
No,
if
the fence would be
the
middleman who you'd use to sell it.
Yeah, I don't really know how things worked back then, honestly. So,
the other thing I loved, and we already kind of talked about this, so we don't need to go any deeper, but how it's a lesson disguised as a story, disguised as a lesson kind of thing. I enjoyed that. What else you got?
I like to love the journey was the overall message too. It's just things might go down. You might get robbed and conned multiple times, but just love the journey, enjoy it and embrace it. Maybe the meaning was the treasure is the journey.
No, that's definitely a message. And that's ties right into, living in the moment. Is if he was only thinking about the treasure in the future, he would never have seen the omens, been able to do the stuff day by day to get there. And it also would be extremely less meaningful. And similarly, if he was just always in the past thinking about Spain, he would have never continued forward. So you really just have to be in the moment. And I think that's definitely a good message. This guy says he's only reading the story for the linear storyline. He's dropping stuff like that. Paulo himself probably did this. He had a very interesting life. I don't know if you read anything about that, but he went into psychiatric hospital when he was a kid because his parents put him there, and then he kind of traveled the world and became like a hippie in the 60s, and then came back to be like this musical recording artist. But basically he had money and felt good and whatnot, had a life, and then went on this 500-mile walk across some countries or whatnot, and found purpose in there. What'd you hate?
I thought it was a bit redundant with all the soul talk and like the heart talk. That whole passage where they're just like walking.
I know
and
what you're talking about.
I was like, all right, I kind of get this. And you were talking about how you can kind of interpret it your own way, whereas that was kind of just speaking at you, which I was like, all right, this isn't a story anymore. This is like, actually, the only people that can do this is this and this, and the heart does that. I'm like, all right. Let's get away from this part of the story. I like the first part better, where it was like a lot more of
his journey.
Him changing jobs and journey and traveling and like bad things happening to him, good things happening to him, and you can just then interpret things as you want there. Whereas when they're just telling you what's going on, it's like, all right, yeah.
I guess I hated how the book made me feel at times, because I don't know. I was looking at it from the metaphorical perspective, and being a quote unquote cubicle monkey. Granted, things have changed since the pandemic, and even before that, you get to work from home a lot more. It's really just working for corporate America, I feel like, is kind of a Debbie Downer. You're really not doing anything for fulfillment, and it often bothers me when other people that I work with are finding fulfillment in what they're doing. I'm like, how is that possible? Ooh, I'm doing something that's, making me feel purposeful. But, I guess I get how like some big swinging dicks are or whatnot, if they're deciding things. This book about going out and trying to find something that's meaningful and purposeful was like, shit, that all sounds really good, but I got a mortgage,
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that, but it definitely was like, fuck, like this Santiago guy's a little shepherd. He was able to give up everything he owned like 4 times just to go and do something, and like, I'm not willing to risk this paycheck because I need to pay my mortgage. I need to feed my family.
I didn't like the universe is conspiring to help you and omens will tell you what to do. I didn't think that was actually a really good message. I feel like there are a lot of times where you feel like the universe is conspiring against you, if anything. If something's that easy and the things are just being handed to you or like guiding you in the right direction, then it's probably not your personal legend, right? Stuff should be difficult. If you really want something, there should be like a trial and tribulations before you get that success.
Yeah, well, I think there was that too, right? And when he
had that, but he kept on being like, anything you do, the universe will help you get it, and there'll be omens. And it's like, what if there is no omen? What if BBC has fucking 10 downloads, 1 week? What does that tell me? Does that mean I should just give up? I'm not getting any fucking omens here.
Yeah, I think the idea is more of when bad things happen, don't put your head down and stop paying attention to what's going on, because when you do that, you won't be able to hear and see what's happening around you, and you're also not living in the moment anymore.
All right, good spin zone.
Yeah, I'm doing what I can. But I am with you that this I think that's what the book The Secret is all about, that people really liked, was that if you put it out there, the universe will give it to you. And I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit of a pessimist and a cynic, so I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but maybe I just have my own problems to deal with. What do we have for listener mail?
You've got mail.
All right. We have Pete from Greenville. I read somewhere that this book was for, quote, the 37-year-old that's always wanted to become a writer, aka BBC podcaster, but feel stuck in their office job. Did you feel that this book was for that person, aka us? Because that's what we are, right?
This guy's on the nose.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. So basically this book is meant for people that basically are stuck in a dead-end job or an office job that need to be like quit and fucking go off and do their own thing. Do you think that's the were you inspired after reading this book?
I wasn't inspired to quit my day job, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to find your personal legend?
If someone did, let's just say if you're Paulo, put your hands in his writing hands or his typewriter or whatever, and you write this book and you get a couple of letters, which I'm sure he has, about people that said, hey, you know, this book allowed me, because some people just need that push, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe we all do, but
maybe this was their omen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, maybe they were in that rut and were on the train driving, you know, going to their shitty job on their shitty commute and said, you know what, fuck it. Like, I've always wanted to be a plumber, like you said before. And they went back to the trades and they started their own business and they run a great plumbing business and they're helping local people in their community. Good for you. If that was us, I would be jazzed. You know what I mean? If I was that guy, if I was Paulo, I'd be jazzed. For me, at least, I enjoy talking about this stuff, and I think that, you know, your perspective is different than mine, and I think when we bounce those off each other, it makes me think about things in a different way. So don't focus on the end goal so much. You know, I'm not necessarily focusing on the end goal. I'm just focusing
live in the moment
on enjoying these books and having a chat. But I do think that whether it was intended to or not, people are in search of answers. And if people are in search of answers, they're going to look at stuff like this, you know? So that's just kind of the way it is. If someone feels lost, they're going to try to find something. They're going to find their light.
I also feel like I think most people are more the crystal shop owner, right?
100%. 100%.
Because Santiago was already a risk taker. He's like done multiple risks. So it's much easier to take a bunch of risks when you already have proven that you can step out on the ledge and it works. It's like, all right, it's easier to do that. It's much harder when you have a mortgage, you have a couple kids, and you're just like, well, I can't really risk a lot here because otherwise I'm screwing over more than just myself type thing, you know?
Yeah. And I did hear an interview with Paulo Coelho, and he said something that I thought was interesting, which was people that are in those positions, because he was talking about people that have mortgages, kids, family, whatever. He's like, your loved ones want to see you happy and in pursuit of something. If you're living this life that you don't want to live professionally or whatever the case is, then that negative energy is going to scratch off onto the people around you too.
Reminds me of that Bill Burr quote. You know that one, the futon one?
No.
He says, realizing that sleeping on a futon when you're 30 is not the worst thing. You know what's worse? Sleeping in a king bed next to a wife you're not really in love with, but for some reason you're married and have a couple kids. This is really depressing. And you got a job you hate, you'll be fantasizing about sleeping on the futon. There's no risk when you go after your dream. There's a tremendous amount of risk playing it safe. I like that. Yeah, that's a great quote.
That should be in The Alchemist. We should have just read that quote. Yeah. We would have never had to read the book. Are we going to cast this movie? There's really no movie here, right? Or did you want to?
I did some, but
what do you got? What do you got? No. Spit it out.
I did. We're not doing kid actors for that. That's first and foremost.
For sure not.
And I was thinking desert. I was thinking Tatooine. I was thinking Star Wars. I was thinking Santiago, John Boyega. I think his story didn't get finished really in the Star Wars, and I like him as an actor. I liked his character.
Yeah, he's great.
We're bringing him out to the fucking desert again. We're giving a fucking journey. We're giving him the hero's journey that he deserved. And I fucking finish off his thing, and not the dumbass ending that he got in the Star Wars. I'm not going to get upset. I'm getting upset. Give me that for Santiago. What do you got?
The only thing that I would possibly have for Santiago is Dev Patel.
Oh, okay. From
well, there's been a bunch of things, but he was in like Lion.
I mean, his most famous one is Slumdog Millionaire. Right?
Oh, Slumdog Millionaire. Yeah. And I do think that this would also, if you wanted to go instead of North Africa, you wanted to go like Far East kind of vibes. Like I think India would be also an interesting place to play.
Yeah, I don't
out.
think you could do this anywhere. I don't think it had to be. I mean, I still think it should be in the desert or in this like journey, but it doesn't. The journey could start in the Amazon. You know,
yeah.
It doesn't. I think you'd open up the world more.
Yeah, if you wanted to, for sure. Did you have anyone else you would want to cast?
I did Jeremy Irons for The Alchemist. I just had to put him in the movie after hearing his voice the whole time.
Give it to him.
And then the British dude, I was just thinking Jude Law. He's a Jude Law guy. That British guy.
Yeah, that checks out. He's also been that character, I feel like, before in a bunch of movies.
That is his character.
Yeah.
Will Smith has the rights to it, by the way.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. 2021 he got them. So, but I think that might be paused a little bit. But
I feel like this would be tough to make into a movie because
it'd be like Big Fish, that movie, which I did not like at all.
I haven't seen it, but I'm a huge Ewan McGregor fan.
I might have to rewatch it, but I just remember thinking it was very similar to this, where it's like whimsical and like I remember describing it as the opposite of Death of a Salesman. It was like this guy telling all these tall tales and all this ridiculous stuff, but at the end they're all true. Like they're all like ridiculous things. Like I caught a fish with 9 eyes, and it's like all these things, and it's like, oh, he's just like a complete liar that thinks he's bigger than he is, and then he's like, nope, I am this good. It's like, oh,
okay.
I didn't care for that kind of messaging. It's like, what's that tell about you? Just a braggart? Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, I feel like this would be almost like if Will Smith wanted to make it with his own money or something, like a low budget, but like a passion project. For sure. I could see it. I don't think it's bringing people out of the. It's not like, oh shit, The Alchemist. What a great book. That'd be a good. Yeah,
it's
I
people
think if they make it for
that.
movie theaters and like try to make it bigger than it is, it loses all of its meaning. So.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Keith, The Alchemist. Would you recommend it not only to our high schoolers out there, but to everyone else in the world?
I thought it was good. I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it, but if someone said, have you read it? I said, yeah, that was solid. It was a good book. You know, I didn't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other. I did think it was a cool, whimsical bedtime story book. I think you read these once in a while. I think they're worth it. But so I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't overwhelmingly say yes. I would just say right in the middle. Yeah, solid.
Okay. I would say yes. I think I like books that make you think. I mean, I don't love them all the time, but I like books that make you think a little bit. And this one definitely did. Not think normally how we like to think like, oh, who's the killer or what's the twist, which I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But we're going to read 30 books this year or something like that. So having a book like this in there is nice.
Yeah,
so I think if someone, I would suggest, let's just say if I had a kid and they were going to college or something like that, I would recommend this book to them. And I would also say, hey, read this book now. And it's quick, which we love. And I'd say in 10 years, read it again. Because I'd be interested, because I have this on my bookshelf. It's the SGFs. And she said, I read that at least every couple of years or something. I was like, really? Like, what? And this is a book that I feel like changes as you age and learn stuff. So I like that. I like that idea that the messaging and the way you interpret it can change, because most books just aren't like that. So it's fluid. I enjoy that. So I think it'd be interesting to read it like different times in your life.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right. Well, that was The Alchemist. Keith, what do we have coming up next? I think this will probably be the end, potentially, of our Return to School series, considering it's almost Halloween. Maybe we should read a horror movie after this next one, or horror book, excuse me.
Anything but the fucking vampire one we just read.
I know, I feel like bad suggesting it at this point. But what do we got coming up next?
We got All Quiet on the Western Front by ERICH Maria. Is that Maria? Remarque? The movie's coming out, or it's just about to come out on Netflix. Yeah. I think this one is one I read in high school. I didn't really remember it though. But
oh, cool.
So it should be a good one.
I love war movies, war books, all that stuff. That's right up my alley. Right up it.
It says this is a 4 to 6th grade level. What? This book was way harder than a 4 to 6th grade.
4 to 6th grade, right in our wheelhouse.
9 to 11 years. This book was not. This wasn't an easy read. I don't know why they would ever put
also,
that.
Also, there's like war and murdering people. Like you want that. And all right. Well, as always, it's great talking to you, and we'll touch base. We'll talk soon on All Quiet on the Western Front. All right. Take care. Bye now.